What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to talk about last night's Monday Night Raw. Am I going to get this up tonight? I might do it. We'll find out. I'll try and keep this quick. I'll try and keep this simple. I want to talk about the build to Backlash because it's not looking very good. Now, I understand Backlash is always kind of, the typical big B show. It's the one right after WrestleMania. We're still trying to work out. We're still trying to, see where we're going to take things going forward. We're still trying to tie off any loose ends from WrestleMania, if maybe we've only had a match the first time at WrestleMania, things like that. However, this just feels, one, underbaked, and two, just outright bad. And it's not, it is the matches, but let's just talk about them here. First of all, we've got Randy Orton versus John Cena. I'm okay with this. It was obviously going to happen. They've historically not had great chemistry throughout their career, but it was always going to be done. WWE like to paint them as each other's best rivals just because they made them wrestle 1,000,001 times. So it was always going to happen. I'd rather have it done now and at the start of the reign than, down the line when we're hopefully getting into it. As well, I'm more open to this because I can prefer this stage of Randy Orton's career. This is probably the most I've been, intrigued and interested in Randy Orton, apart from like 09 Bald Orton and things like that. I think he's kind of possibly, potentially, maybe his most consistent because I guess he cares all the time now. So that's fun. I'm sure that'll be fun. But mainly I want to talk about two of the three matches that were set up on last night's Raw because, God, this card looks like a stinker. First of all, let's just get the more egregious one out the way, even though it's not for the championship. We are having Gunther wrestle Pat McAfee at Backlash. Now, on Raw last week, Gunther attacked Michael Cole. Pat McAfee got involved. He choked out Pat McAfee. Everyone thought this is going to write Pat McAfee off TV for a bit. I don't know what's happening. The NFL draft's happening. He can go do the Pat McAfee show or whatever. He likes taking time off from commentary and kind of coming back whenever he has that time in his schedule. I understand he's probably, he is a bigger star than pro wrestling, especially in America. He obviously played NFL and now has a show and things like that. So I understand that for him, it's maybe not his full-time concern, so I assumed that was where this was going to go, but it's not, because he was on Raw this week and Gunther wasn't, and Pierce went on social media to say Gunther has been fined and suspended. Then during the show, they showed a replay of what happened. Pat McAfee grabbed a mic, not his headset mic, a mic, got up on the desk and cut a promo. Now, he cut this promo, he just basically put himself over and said, I hope that when I die, people will talk about how Pat McAfee was a good person, he donated money, and he helped the LGBTQ charities and donated money to them. You probably should have after the way you've kind of, historically demonized trans people on your show, Pat McAfee, but that's another thing entirely. But he cuts this big, long, impassioned promo about how I'm Pat McAfee and I am a man or whatever, and it was fine. There was a lot of fire. It was obviously coming from the soul from Pat McAfee. He dropped his first wrestler to say fuck on WWE TV on Netflix. I know Cody told The Rock to go fuck himself at Elimination Chamber, but we're given this huge big thing that could be a big moment and a real cool moment. You could just have Seth say I'm Seth fucking Rollins, or CM Punk say I'm the best in the fucking world, which maybe in the build of the match against John, we could have done that, but no, we gave it to Pat McAfee because sure, why not? Nothing matters, I guess. But Pat does cut this big long promo and then calls out Nick Aldis, who was filling in for Adam Pearce for the night, which this kind of made no sense. People were asking Nick Aldis for things. Like, Liv Morgan was like, hey, Nick Aldis, I need time off. I'm going to film this big movie. And then Nick Aldis was like, yeah, sure. It's not my show. I'm just looking after it. But yeah, go for it. Why don't you, man? Why don't you do that? That's cool. Okay, I guess. And then Nick Aldis comes out and he says, basically, he says to Pat, you want me to lift Gunther's suspension so you can put your hands on him at any time. I'm not going to do that. You're both too valuable to this company. We're not going to do that. But what I can give you is a match in St. Louis at Backlash. Now, in Pat McAfee's career in the WWE, he has wrestled, let me check that. What's that? 2, 4, 6, 7 times in the WWE. He also had a match at IW East Coast Scarcade in 2009 against a guy called War Pig. But he wrestled Adam Cole in that match at TakeOver 30, which was kind of fun. Everyone was like, oh, Pat McAfee can do flips and stuff. That's cool. He's athletic. Obviously, fair enough. Fair play, Pat. He was then in War Games that same year. And I remember being like, why the fuck would put Pat McAfee in War Games? Then he wrestled Austin Theory at WrestleMania, Mr. McMahon at WrestleMania, Happy Corbin at SummerSlam, The Miz at WrestleMania, and then was in the Rumble. And what are we doing, man? I get that Pat McAfee is involved and the people seem to like Pat McAfee. I have my opinions on Pat McAfee. I think as a commentator, he's not good. I liked when they brought him in as a pre-show analyst a few years ago, like pre-COVID. I think as a commentator, he never knows when to let a moment lie. But that's whatever. He can take bumps. I remember he did a flip off the top against Cole, but that was, 4.5 years ago now. Whatever. Cool. If Pat McAfee wants to wrestle on these shows and they want to have Pat McAfee wrestle on these shows, that's fair enough. But the guys he's historically wrestled, apart from his 2 NXT matches when they had him wrestle Adam Cole right after Cole lost the world title, it's been like Theory, McMahon, Corbin, and Miz, and then a fun spot in the Rumble. We just had Gunther come off a 666-day reign as Intercontinental Champion, go into then a big, mostly dominant reign as the World Champion, to drop it to him. And instead of rewarding this man for the effort and the heart and the love that he has given to this company, and the blood and the sweat and the tears that he has given WWE, even though they named him after a Nazi, we go, hey, you're going to lose your World Championship in a bad match to a guy who cannot wrestle, and a guy that you routinely always have to carry because he got a Vine catchphrase in 2015 over, and now you're going to wrestle the ex-NFL guy on commentary. Biggest of bros, the G1 is calling your name. And I understand that, I guess McAfee's over, the fans like McAfee, this makes sense for the story that they told last week, I guess, but why is this the story that we're telling? Why can't we just have him go and be a monster? If we really want to treat Gunther like a monster, which I assumed would have been the case last week after he attacked the commentators and started killing everyone, just have him continue to be a monster. I really, really, really liked the angle that he's so upset that he lost. Anyone who points out that he lost and people who are on Jey Uso's side, he snapped. And unless this match is straight and to the point and McAfee is killed within 2 minutes, 5 if Gunther plays with his food, this helps nobody, because McAfee's just going to go back to the commentary desk and he's going to take 4 months off when the NFL season comes back. Like, that's what we're setting this up for. Unless we're setting this up for McAfee to take time off from commentary now and come back occasionally and be like a pre-show guy or an analyst guy or whatever, that's fair enough, but he is on the commentary desk. Netflix clearly like him being on the commentary desk. He is a guy who's more famous than pro wrestling, so people want to see him on the commentary desk because he'll get eyes on the product. And people, they'll tune into Backlash on Netflix because they'll go, hey, Pat McAfee from the Colts, these guys kick for the Colts, he's wrestling at this WWE show, it's on Netflix, let's tune in for that. And I get it, but the same people who are going to tune in for Pat McAfee wrestling on a pay-per-view on Netflix, they would have tuned in if he was wrestling Otis or Tozawa. I don't know why I just went right to the Alpha Academy, but they would have tuned in if he was wrestling anyone. The people who are going to tune in, the extra eyes that Pat McAfee is going to bring to this pay-per-view, aren't there because Pat McAfee is wrestling Gunther. They're there because Pat McAfee is wrestling. And it doesn't help either man. And speaking of a match on Backlash that doesn't help either man, let's talk about the match for the World Heavyweight Championship, because Logan Paul has just called his shot against the terrorist yeet man, Jey Uso, for that championship. And now let it be known, I've said here, I quite like Joshua Fatu. I think he seems like a lot of fun. He seems like a really cool guy. Everyone backstage clearly loves him. However, for most people, Jey Uso just simply does not click. His entrance is over, but the fans immediately stop caring when his entrance is over, and realistically his entrance is only over because everyone wants to join in and do that. Yeet has become the new what chant. People aren't actually invested in what he's saying. They want to try and do something to make themselves laugh, and it's not good. And I don't think the title reign's going to be good. And I think they've predicted this. They've predicted this sort of reaction from people like myself and people who can critically think and analyse pro wrestling, that because we don't like Jey Uso and we are bored, they should give him a person we don't like more in Logan Paul, and that way he'll get a real babyface reaction, and that way, it's going to then start his title reign off with a bang. However, it's not. It's just going to be a bad wrestling match. And it's going to be a bad build. And it's going to kick off a reign that realistically is probably only going to last until SummerSlam with a bad match. Right? We're going to look back on Jey Uso's title reign, and if you really wanted to salvage his WWE legacy and make him seen as one of the WWE guys of all time, which they very clearly want to push the narrative that he is one of the top WWE lifers of all time, you have to give him something more than Logan Paul. I said on one of my last videos that whilst Logan Paul came in and was incredibly impressive in the ring, he hasn't improved in the ring. He has stayed at a level of good in the ring, good at moves can do moves and pull off moves well and impressive and safely. However, there is another part to pro wrestling, and that is the psychology, and that is the earning these moves, and that is, the little things, and he still doesn't understand them. And Jey Uso, quite simply, doesn't have any little things in his arsenal. He also just does moves. It's gonna fucking suck. And ultimately this is the consequence of Triple H just repeatedly pulling the curtain back, saying, hey, this shit's not real, don't even worry about it, sit back, enjoy the ride, stop trying to be a critic, stop trying to think about the wrestling that you're consuming, stop trying to tell us to give you an entertaining product because it doesn't matter, because it's not real. It's a fucking toxic mindset, and it has ruined the perception of wrestling to fans of WWE. And there was something more prominent that happened with that I'm actually going to talk about in a video tomorrow. But that mindset of Triple H's sort of booking philosophy, and the way that, he tells us it doesn't matter, it's not real, so why do we care, why are we that bothered, when we're just trying to invest in a product that we love, and invest in a thing that we love, and want to watch the shows and enjoy the shows. But it just feels like, again, WWE are punishing us for caring. And this is not the first time that it just feels like WWE is punishing us for caring or wanting to care, because it's kind of the story of the last couple of years that the WWE, punish us for wanting to invest and punish us for wanting to care. And Triple H goes on these podcasts and he says, I just want to tell the fans to shut the fuck up and be fans. Like, what makes us fans is having an enjoyable product, and this is not an enjoyable prospect of an enjoyable product, and neither is the Gunther McAfee stuff. And I just think that with both of those into account, the fact that history isn't on the side of Cena and Orton to have a good match. Becky and Lyra, that'll be great. Lyra, I keep calling her Lyra. Becky and Valkyrie will be great. I hope they have good chemistry. They've proven that before in their match in NXT. So I'm hopeful for that, but that just feels like it's going to be an all-time carry job on what could potentially be an all-time letdown of a show. And it sucks because why would you follow WrestleMania? I understand that it's right after WrestleMania, maybe we're still trying to work some things out, and it's never going to be as hot as WrestleMania, but this is just a wet fart of a show on paper. We have 3 more episodes of TV to go. Feels like the card's already set because of Triple H's sort of 5-match rule that he wants to stick to for reasons. And yeah, admittedly there wasn't millions of goodwill coming out of WrestleMania, especially after the end of Night 2, but it kind of feels like once again they're actively destroying any goodwill that they've built up. So that's it for me today. I don't want to keep yammering on and on and on and on. Now let me know what you think of the build for Backlash so far. Let me know what you think of the matches that have been set for Backlash so far. Let me know what you're thinking of everything going forward, because Raw last week was a banger despite no wrestling. SmackDown last week, we had the triple threat fucking TLC. Heater! You couldn't have put that on WrestleMania, you bald fraud. But no, let me know what you guys think of everything I was talking about down in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Tell all your friends about the handsome man on YouTube with the good wrestling opinions. Once again guys, my name is Jake. This is where I talk wrestling. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.